Okay, recording started. Welcome back to the Fifth Quarter Podcast, second episode. We're going to be previewing the NFL. I'm joined by my buddy Jack C. Thanks for joining us, Jack. Maybe give everyone a little intro about you.
What's up, guys? I'm calling in from Minneapolis, lifelong Viking fan, lifelong fantasy football player, lifelong football watcher, and we're going to be just giving some of our takes, some of our bold takes, things to look out for the season, and we're going to give you guys a bunch of good information. So let's get into it.
All right, we will start with the different divisions. We're going to look at the NFC first, and then we'll get into the AFC after. But there's 8 divisions, so we're going to give our predictions. Since Jack is a Vikings fan, we're going to start with the NFC North. Jack, I'll give it over to you. I would love to hear about what your NFC North prediction is.
So obviously, I'm going to predict that the Vikings are going to take the NFC North. It's hard not to say Lions. We all know the Lions are a high-powered offense, despite losing their offensive coordinator, which will, in my opinion, make them take a hit. But you got to give the edge to your hometown team. Minnesota Vikings are taking the NFC North.
Why do you think that the Vikings are more in position to take this division over a team that's more experienced like the Lions or the Packers?
You know, if I'm going to be honest, it's optimism. We have rookie quarterback J.J. McCarthy coming in, but the reports from camp are positive, especially with the connection between Addison and McCarthy. Addison, if you look at through the last couple of years, has actually taken quarterbacks kind of from no name, middle of the pack, to producing a really good year for Darnold last year. And to pair that, obviously you have Justin Jefferson. Don't even need to say anything about him. Everybody knows what's going on over there. The best receiver in the league for the last 3 years. It's just going to come down to winning the close matchups. That's been killing the Vikings for the last 2 seasons, is being a touchdown above and not closing out. But obviously, I think this year it's going to go our way.
Yeah, this I feel like is the hardest division to predict for a few reasons. One, the Lions losing both of their coordinators. They lose Ben Johnson on offense, which he's probably the best offensive coordinator. I don't think that's a doubt within anyone's mind. And then having to lose Aaron Glenn to the Jets. I know their defense wasn't as good, but he was very much a culture guy. So I'm not as worried on the defensive side. Obviously, they had all those injuries last year that affected them and led to their loss against the Commanders as their offense just went off. But when it comes to this division, I do not think I can take the Lions here. The only question is the Vikings with J.J. McCarthy. I know that he has all the talent in the world and that there is no better system, no better amount of weapons he could have around him, and 2 great running backs. But I look at the Packers and I think this could be the Packers' year, especially now that they have Micah Parsons. I know their run defense and their D tackles was kind of middle of the pack, and now losing Kenny Clark in that trade. But on the edge, they're really good. So I still think that the Packers have a shot of winning this division. And no offense to the Lions, I think they have the most talent, maybe just a tier above the Vikings. But I'm with you. I'm taking the Vikings to win this division based off of Brian Flores in the defense and trusting that Kevin McConnell. I'm not expecting J.J. McCarthy to be an MVP candidate. I'm not expecting him to be even better than maybe a Cam Ward, but I'm expecting him to just do his job, limit the turnovers. And I think with the 2 running back systems that they have now, having Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones, I think that's going to be enough for them to scheme ways to find receivers open, play the running game, and limit mistakes on JJ's side. I don't think that this is going to be a 1 seed just because of how strong this division is, but I still think the Vikings are going to win it at the end of the day.
Love it. Love it.
All
I
right,
couldn't agree more.
I know you would love to hear that. Let's take it from the north to the south, the NFC South. This was a really interesting division. Tampa Bay losing their offensive coordinator after seeing Baker have an MVP-like season. The Saints, who are struggling to find their identity with a new coach. The Falcons with Michael Penix fully taking over and starting. And then having the Panthers, where we saw Bryce Young really turn it around at the end of the year. So a lot of question marks here. Jack, I'd love to hear what you think about the NFC South this year and who you think is going to win it.
Personally, I'm going with the Buccaneers. like you just mentioned, they lost a big piece of their offense, but what you got to realize is not only is the core of the team still intact, but they just got a Bunka who could very well be the best rookie receiver out of the whole draft class. And you got to realize that this is a team who has Bucky Irving on the rise. They have Mike Evans, who's been steady and still producing. Potentially, what I think is going to be the X factor that allows the Buccaneers to stay on top the whole year is, can Chris Godwin play 15, 16 games out of the season and complete that receiver trio, taking off pressure and allowing the whole team to exceed?
And what do you think about Liam Cohen after really helping Baker develop and utilizing all the pieces on offense? You saw it was Bucky Irving really took off and took over Rashad White's role there and really took over as RB1. But you take away Liam Cohen, how do you think this is going to affect Tampa Bay's offense this year?
They're going to take a hit because there's no way around it. An offensive coordinator, it is important overall to the whole dynamic of the offense. But yet again, I like to be optimistic. I like to think that they have ways around this. I like to think that the organization is finding pivots and ways to go about this despite losing a piece that's central to their team.
Yeah, I feel like it's really hard to pick against Tampa Bay in this division, and that's why I'm going to take the Buccaneers here. I think their offense might take a slight hit, but it's just going to be a slight speed bump. I really don't think that. I think they'll be able to operate at 90% of what they did last year, and that's going to be plenty in this division. Don't get me wrong, I really do like Michael Penix, and I think with Bijan over there and Drake London, their offense is going to be really good, and I really do think Penix is going to be an NFL caliber player. But Baker Mayfield had an MVP like season last year, and I think he's going to have another season like that. And when you have that great of a season in a slightly weak division, I don't think they're maybe the worst division in all of NFL. But when you have a team that is that stacked on offense and they already have the pieces and understand what it takes to be done, adding in Emeka Ibuka. I know Chris Godwin, it's been rumored that he might start the year on the physically unable to perform list, maybe being out for at least 4 games. But I think you take Emeka Ibuka. I was very high on him and placing him right in there and then getting Godwin back after and having a 3 wide receiver trio on top of having Bucky Irving and Rashad White. It's very hard to piece them not winning the division, especially having Todd Bowles, the head coach, on the defensive side to take those reins. So I'm going to take the Buccaneers with you as well. So far, we're 2 for 2 on picking the same team to win the division, but let's get into the NFC East. I think maybe we might have a different opinion here. We'll see.
Well, in the NFC East, my pick is the Eagles, and it's kind of the same logic. It's just expecting teams to come out and replicate the success that they had last year. Obviously, they still have Saquon Barkley, who is coming off probably one of the best seasons of his career. They still have Jalen Hurts. What I think needs to happen in order for the Eagles to stay on top this year is the receiving room needs to stay intact. And that's the same way I feel about a lot of teams. When you have all your receivers healthy, and especially in today's NFL, when you're throwing to your tight ends, you're throwing to your running backs, you're keeping everybody involved, even on the passing side of the offense, regardless of having a Saquon Barkley. I think it just allows, as the way to lift the pressure, your ways to convert those tough third downs, your ways to allow your running backs to rest up before they're going again and taking their 30 carries game. I think the Eagles is an easy pick. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
I've done a lot of weighing back and forth on this, and it's between the Eagles and the Commanders. But when I look at the Commanders, I see, all right, you traded for Laramie Tunsil, you traded for Debo Samuel, Jaden Daniels is progressing into another year under Cliff Kingsbury's offense, but they had a lot of aging pieces that they took in free agency last year that I just do not understand if they are going to be good this year, if they might be washed. I just do not know whether to trust it. We saw Debo looked horrible last year, hence why they traded him essentially with with having Ayuk and Ricky Persil there. But Zach Ertz, Bobby Wagner, some of these key pieces to why they turned it around so fast, I don't understand how they replicate that. And also, they had a very strong second half of the season with a lot of momentum and then losing to the Eagles. So I'm still going to take the Eagles here. You got Vic Fangio in that defense. And last year was only his first year in that defense. So I expect their defense to be even better this year. Even I don't really care if you lose Darius Slay. I mean, that was the biggest piece they lost on defense. You could say that Milton Williams was a big piece, but he was more of their third rotational piece. But my only question with the Eagles is losing Kellen Moore on offense. We saw him really help Dak Prescott. We saw him help Justin Herbert, and now Jalen Hurts in winning a Super Bowl. His coaching abilities got him a job in New Orleans. So my question is there, but I think Jalen Hurts is such a strong leader. He shows up in big games. His 2 Super Bowl performances are, spectacular. This guy is a big game performer. So I can't pick against that. Having Saquon, obviously, is huge. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, also huge. I think if an injury happened to either A.J. Brown or Saquon, that would really just derail their season. So if the Eagles stay healthy, it's their division to win. But you lose an A.J. Brown or you lose Saquon Barkley at some point in the season, I think the Commanders take this division. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
See, I agree because when you want to be high on a team like the Eagles, you can't use that to discredit the success that the Commanders had last year. That was a team that from the middle of the season, everybody jumped on ship. Everybody was in agreement that they could make a run. Obviously, JD5, who's a guy who could potentially be the face of the league in just a year or two here. He has the right weapons. They just lost their guy in B-Rob, but what I like to see at running back, Jacoby Krosky Merritt, I think is how you say it. When you let the young guys get in there and get a chance, those are your explosive, turn something into nothing, always fall forward running backs. I'd love to see how that plays in. I think having a young potential stud at running back to pair with JD5 and the rushing upside that he brings to the Commanders, it's going to be anybody's game. If it is not one of those 2 teams at the top of the division, I think everybody's going to be surprised.
I would be extremely surprised. I think this is more of a developmental year for Jackson Dart and the Giants, and Brian Schottenheimer for the Cowboys. This is going to be a one and done where he's fired at the end of the year when they go, 7-10. So I really like the Commanders' offense. They traded for Laramie Tunsil, like I mentioned, and then they also drafted in the first round that rookie offensive tackle out of Oregon. So they're really investing in the offensive line, which is great, especially for a quarterback that can process it really well. That's why he was so successful. He does the VR training. I love that. It's super cool to learn about that and how he started at LSU and really helped him develop there. But I really like the Commanders' offense. I'm glad that Cliff Kingsbury is coming back. I don't expect to see a sophomore slump because of that. But I still like the Eagles at the end of the day. So we're 3 for 3 on it being the same. We'll get into the last division in the NFC here. And honestly, I think this is the most open division in the NFC, if not the entire league. The NFC West. Jack, who do you got winning the NFC West this year?
For me, pretty easy to say Niners. We just talked about the fact how they brought in B-Rob. They have what seems to be a healthy McCaffrey, a developing receiver in Ricky Pearsall, and what I think is a great potential franchise quarterback in Brock Purdy. The Niners have been a team that you would be wildly surprised to see them under 9, 10, 11 wins in these last couple of years. You know that they're always going to come out. They have weapons on offense. They have a great coaching staff. You also have George Kittle. Like we mentioned earlier, the importance of receiving tight ends, but Kittle is a guy who can go out and get you 80 yards on 5 catches while simultaneously having the blocking upside and being able to be a true weapon on the field. This team has elite, high level NFL players and all the pieces. I think things are going to come together. The 49ers take it easy.
Easy. So no competition from the other teams in this.
What do you think on that?
I'm actually not going to take the 49ers here. My 2025 NFC West Division winner is the Los Angeles Rams. I know Matthew Stafford has had some questionable injuries with his back currently, so this is assuming that he is healthy this year. But I think that the LA Rams have one of the most loaded rosters, and obviously they have a beast of a coach in Sean McVay. Having year two of Braden Fiskey and having year two of Jared Verse, their defensive front is great and it's young and it's developing. Um, I don't think their secondary is as good as it has been years ago when they had Jalen Ramsey. So I think that is their major weakness on defense. But then you take it over to the offensive side of the ball. They might have lost Cooper Kupp, but then they go in and they add Devontae Adams on top of already having Puka Nakua and then having the running back duo of Blake Corums behind Kyron Williams. I think their offense is just so good. And Matthew Stafford, I think, was playing some of the best ball last year, almost winning against the Eagles in the playoffs. So I think it's going to be really close between them and the 49ers. And I think the Arizona Cardinals might be sneaking into contention this year. But give me the Los Angeles Rams to win the division this year.
Love it.
Okay. So we're 3 of 4, pretty similar on it. But I feel like I'm going to bring up one division here that is just loaded, mostly loaded. The AFC North. So the Ravens, Bengals, Browns, and Steelers. You got Aaron Rodgers now on the Steelers. You got the Browns with Shadur Sanders sitting behind Joe Flacco. Who knows how that team's going to look this year? You have Joe Burrow in the Bengals and Lamar Jackson in the Ravens. This division outside of maybe Cleveland is very loaded and very much about quarterback play. Who do you have winning the AFC North this year?
To me, I initially wanted to say the Ravens, but having my own biases play in, I couldn't help but go with the Bengals. You have one of the greatest cores offensively. Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Those guys are going to come out hot. We can remember last year, Joe Burrow, who was hampered dealing with a calf injury, was a guy who could have easily came out and been an MVP favorite. If you look on public sportsbook data, Burrow would be anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 in terms of MVP candidates. He's projected to lead the NFL in touchdowns. He's projected to lead the NFL in passing touchdowns. To say that these things are all going to guaranteed happen, I don't think that's necessary. But to understand that this team is going to contend offensively, they're going to be great. I would be extremely shocked if we didn't see at least a couple of the things come together here, especially with the season that Chase Brown pulled off last year, being easily one of the top rookie running backs in the whole NFL. I think that's all replicated. All the stars are aligning. The core important parts of this team that need to be the same in order to replicate the success or at least exceed the potential that they've had in the past. It's all there. For me, I take the Bengals, but I can understand why somebody would go different.
I'm going to go different here. I think this division is easily the Ravens, and here's why. The Bengals do not have a defense. The rookie first round pick, Shamar Stewart, who they couldn't sign to a contract because of disputes for a while, is also a developmental prospect. This guy only had 4.5 sacks over 3 years in college. He's going to need time to develop, and it's not going to be this year when he's a star. You got Trey Hendrickson for 1 year, but your run defense is still going to be horrible. You have no defense. You spend all this money on offense. The Bengals, meanwhile, I'm sorry. The Ravens, meanwhile, have both offense and defense. They have Lamar Jackson, who was robbed of an MVP last year. And then they have the defensive side with a loaded secondary. Their linebacker core is pretty dang good with Roquan Smith, and their defensive line does the job. So give me the Ravens to blow through this division. Doesn't matter about old man Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't matter about Joe Burr. The Ravens are taking this division. No response to that?
Oh, how was I was wondering if you were going to segue to the next division.
Just wondering what your thoughts about that is, because I don't think the Bengals have a lick of defense outside of Trey Hendrickson.
I'm not going to say that's not true. If we're talking in terms of Super Bowls, I believe that if you needed to pick what's better, your offense or your defense, while both are necessary, that offense is going to be more key of a factor. That's kind of a bold take for me. I know a lot of people tend to go the other way, but I'll never write off defense. I just think if we're talking about winning the division, straight wins and losses, who scores more points than the other teams that they're playing, I think that's the edge that the Bengals get in sneaking it out.
I think the Bengals offense might be the number one offense in the league this year. But when you're talking about AFC North football, the weather, the outdoors, who's going to win with the defensive thrust, who's going to be winning in the trenches, that all points to the Ravens for me.
I like it. I respect it. I respect that opinion.
Okay, let's get into the AFC West. Maybe the most loaded division. You have year 2 of Bo Nix with the Broncos. You have the Chiefs, who are a dynasty still. You have the Chargers in year 2 of Jim Harbaugh. And you have the new look Raiders with Geno Smith, Ashton Jency, and Pete Carroll. This division, anyone could win it, I feel like, in my mind. All of these teams are playoff caliber teams. And I think there's probably 3 teams that are Super Bowl contenders. But who do you have winning the AFC West this year?
As much as it pains me to say it, I do take the Chiefs. I've been learning to hate the Chiefs for the past 4 years, being in the environment at Kansas University and seeing how everybody goes all crazy, bandwagoning their quarterback, pretending like they've liked the team for longer than the past 5 years. But you have a lot of important things about the Chiefs. So what will happen is you have a good blend of offense and defense. Mahomes, Pacheco, Kelsey, a young star and Worthy. But what I think is going to be very important because of the way that the situation planned out is Rashi Rice. The final suspension term is going to be 6 games, so he's going to miss the first third of the season. And here's the question is, does a guy like this come back in football shape? Rashi Rice, who before his injury last year was somebody that looked like the next great receiver. He was explosive. He was a good separator. He was a good route runner. He had the intangibles. It's a guy that was truly electrifying to watch on the field. When somebody like that comes back, and the common theme of my thesis is that you're having players that, by them playing good and doing what they do, relieves the tension and allows the whole rest of the team to thrive. I think Rashi Rice is that guy. I'm an offensive guy. I see this being one of the better offenses in the league, maybe top 5 to 10, just depending on how things go. As much as I don't want to say the Chiefs, I feel very confident in doing so. I'd love to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Chiefs win this division. I understand that Jim Harbaugh is a very good coach at building up the program positively year over year. So I expect the Chargers to be better than they were last year, and they weren't too far behind. And same with the Broncos. I still expect the Broncos maybe not to take as big of a step as the Chargers will this year, but still move positively. So I think there's going to be 3 really good teams here. And I still think the Raiders are going to be a team that wins at least 7 games, but I think they're a year behind the development of a team like the Chargers or the Broncos. But I still have to take the Chiefs here, and here's why. The Chiefs are a perfectly built dynasty for these reasons. You have a franchise quarterback who is arguably one of, if not the best quarterbacks year after year, who can play well, play through injury, win big games. You have the greatest offensive scheme and greatest offensive coach in NFL history, and you have an excellent year over year, at least top 5 defensive coordinator every single year, if not top 3 or top 1. And he is a former failed head coach, so he is never leaving the defensive coordinator position. You have the perfect mix of offense, defense, quarterback, and these pieces are not leaving unless, God forbid, somebody dies. bringing back, like you said, Rashee Rice coming back to the team. I know Travis Kelce didn't look his best last year, but Andy Reid can still scheme this guy open, and he can still be a very good threat to find the holes in the zone defense. So I'm not worried about Travis Kelce needing to be 1,000-yard receiver. If he's an 800, 700-yard receiver with 8 touchdowns, that will be a great year for Travis Kelce. Having another year of Xavier Worthy to develop and get schemed open, having Rashee Rice coming back for the last 11 games of the season plus playoffs, as long as his injury isn't drastic where it really is a nagging injury, kind of like what happened to Juju Smith-Schuster a couple of years ago, that opens up everything else for them. Don't forget they have Hollywood Brown coming back too. So having 3 good receivers, having a really good tight end, and then having Steve Spagnuolo on the defense, I don't get how you can't pick against the Chiefs. I really think for Mahomes that he's going to have an MVP-like year, and their offense is really going to take a step forward in comparison to last year. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
We're pretty much in agreement here. It's a team that really is a true dynasty because they're not missing any pieces. I like the emphasis that you put on Andy Reid's ability to scheme because that's what makes the Chiefs so good. That's the reason why they convert their 4th downs. That's the reason why they win games that are close. That's the reason why they're able to come back on days where Mahomes isn't throwing the ball well, on days where the line blocking is insufficient. It's just the idea that Chiefs don't have to be cookie cutter. They don't have to be textbook. They just seem to always find ways to get it done. They just seem to always finish at the top of their division. And I don't see anything changing this year with so much consistency and so much potential on the roster.
Yeah, 100%. I think until the Chiefs lose this division, they're going to win it every single year, even with Harbaugh, even with Pete Carroll, even with Sean Payton. I just think the Chiefs have the best overall roster, and they don't have to worry about any coaching turnover as well. So let's take it down south to the AFC South. We got a new quarterback in Cam Ward over there. We got a new coach for the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. We got the same old Texans with hopefully a step forward from young guys like Will Anderson and CJ Stroud. And then you have the Colts with Daniel Jones and, Anthony Richardson QB battle. Just a very confusing situation down there. So, Jack, who is winning the AFC South this year?
To me, it's not like this is exactly a loaded division, but I feel good in saying the Texans. You got to realize the Texans still have a quarterback, a young CJ Stroud, who has a lot of potential to bloom. He's in a situation where there's going to need to be some serious development with the receiver changes going on. But you can see when he takes a guy like Nico Collins, who's great, and squeezes every bit of potential out of him, allowing him to go get the deep ball, allowing him to get the ball thrown in the right position, even when there's only a couple feet of separation. I think this is a team that goes around 9 wins, 10 wins, and just ends up squeezing out at the top of the division because of things like their defense and because of things like their young stars.
Yeah, I think the Jaguars are a very interesting team here. I think their offense is going to be significantly better and their defense is going to be a little better. I'm assuming Travis Hunter is going to play DB primarily. As the season goes on, I think he'll transition more to being an elite defensive back versus being, a middle of the pack wide receiver. The Titans with Cam Ward, is as good as I think Cam Ward is going to be, I still think that the pieces around him are just horrible. Their offensive line isn't great. Their wide receivers is probably the worst in the league, unless the young wide receiver, I think his name is Eric Alomore I might be butchering that, from Stanford. If he can be a dog, I think that would help. And then the Colts are just, they can't even find their identity. There'll probably be a new head coach at the end of the year. So I'm going to take the Texans here. This reminds me a lot of the 2022 or 20. It reminds me a lot of the Bengals, Joe Burrow's second year when they got Jamar Chase. I think now that you have CJ Stroud going into year 3, they have a very strong defense. I think the Texans' strong point is going to be their defense. Will Anderson, I really think that the defense is going to carry the Texans this year, but it reminds me of so much of the Bengals the year they went to the Super Bowl, because the Texans' offensive line is horrible. They traded out the first round pick, traded that to who was it? I can't remember, but the point being made is the Houston Texans offensive line is horrible, but they have a stacked wide receiver. I know Tank Dell might not be playing till late season, if not at all, but you got Nico Collins, you have Jaden Higgins, and you have the other young wide receiver from Iowa State. I think Joe Mixon injury is going to significantly inhibit their offense. If Joe Mixon is playing, though, this offense is going to be electric, like the Cincinnati Bengals were. But not having that O-line is going to be their major drastic issue. So I got the Texans going 10-7, winning their division with maybe the Jaguars kind of right behind them. But I think they have a lot of potential. I just do not trust that offensive line. But I think that because this division is so weak, this is the Texans' year to take the division once again for the third year in a row.
I agree with that. It's the thing about the Jaguars, in my opinion, is you had BTJ basically explode. Some people saw that coming, some people didn't. If you've seen how good the LSU receivers have been lately, even just in their rookie season, it seems to make a lot more sense in hindsight. But I just want people to understand it's not too late to give up on a guy like Trevor Lawrence. If Travis Hunter does come out and take maybe 80% wide receiver snaps, we're looking at a guy who's a freak athlete. He doesn't need to go for 1,200 yards and a bunch of receiving touchdowns. This is a guy who can go up and make your CeeDee Lamb caliber contested catches. This is a guy who can be in some ways relief for Trevor Lawrence, who, despite looking very good at times, has never put together a whole consistent season.
Yeah, I think with Travis Hunter, he is going to be transitioned into a third down, not running back, you hear the third down back. He's going to be a third down wide receiver. Listen, regular wide receivers, even the stars like Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, they take plays off because of how much physical exertion that it is to be a wide receiver. You do that on top of being DB, he's not going to be able to do that. But I think with Lee and Cohen, you already have Brian Thomas Jr., so you do not need Travis Hunter to be wide receiver one for you. But just like how Andy Reid does with Xavier Worthy, they're going to scheme plays for Travis Hunter to get him the ball on crucial downs like a third or a fourth down. I think that with Travis Hunter doing that, that will be enough for the Jaguars offense to take a big leap. And I'm expecting Trevor Lawrence to have a significant improvement, but I'm still taking the Texans at the end of the day.
I like it. I think we're very much in agreement there.
Okay. The final division for us, for those that are watching physically over on YouTube, you can see my Patriots jersey. So I am a Patriots fan. We're getting in this division last, but I'll bring it over to you, JC. Who do you got winning the AFC East this year?
I'm going to go out and say that this is a team that I'm surprised hasn't won a Super Bowl in the last couple of years. I go with the Bills. I'm an offensive guy. When I see the rise of Josh Allen, I can't think of another quarterback that you'd want to be the star of your franchise. This is a guy that you're never going to be surprised if you see him come out for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Josh Allen is a winner. They have a very good two-headed backfield, and James Cook, who just came off of maybe what was he, top 2 or 3 in the league in touchdowns, paired with Ray Davis to support the carries. Now here's the thing. A lot of people that play fantasy, they'll see you have a lead running back and a secondary running back, and they'll not know exactly how to feel about the shared backfield. What ends up happening is when you run running backs above 320, 340, 350 carries in a season, they're going to need a second back to keep them fresh and to keep the wear and tear off their body, especially for teams that want to run it up the middle. The Bills are going to come off strong because what they're missing in their season is the consistency of staying by playing at the top of their potential. I think they're going to start strong. I think they're going to finish strong. It's just going to take the middle, getting over the rough patches, getting over the hump and whatever potential injury is, and I think that's what's going to allow the Bills to win it.
Yeah, I think the Bills are very good. The Dolphins I have a lot of question marks about it. The Patriots with all their big signings and draft picks, and then the Jets with a new coach. Your 2025 AFC East winner is unfortunately the Buffalo Bills. As much as it hurts to say this as a Patriots fan, there is no arguing that the Bills are clearly the best in the division. As much as delusional Patriots fans want to say that we have all these great draft picks, we spent all this money in free agency, your team is still not as good as the Bills are. I like Mike Vrabel, but this team is still 1 year away from really competing for this division. I know the Bills spent a lot of draft capital this year on their defense, and it was much needed with a lot of aging pieces. But Josh Allen was still the MVP. James Cook is still there. Joe Brady is still commanding this offense. Keon Coleman heading into year 2. I still think that the Bills control this division for at least one more year. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
I completely agree. It's just hard to say that a team who can come out and on any given day, their defense can put up 6 to 12 touchdowns. You see this team scoop and score, pick six, force fumbles. You see the Bills defense do a lot of crazy stuff. Like I said, I give a lot of the offensive success to Josh Allen. It seems like this is a guy who can turn any receiver into a stud. You'll see guys go up and down, especially with the ways that things have moved around on the Bills offense. But Josh Allen to me can throw the deep ball. He can convert on tough third downs. And what a lot of people forget is that for the last couple of years, he's been one of the best dual threat quarterbacks. He has the rushing upside, and he actually puts up an amount of rushing touchdowns, which always seems to exceed expectations. He'll get in the end zone on the 3, on the 2, just off of making the right read and being the smart playmaker that he is.
Yeah. I would love to hear, though, because the other 3 teams in this league, what is the rest of the order? When you're talking about second division, third and division, fourth and division, how do you think that goes for the rest of this division?
See, here's the thing. When you have the Dolphins, for example, it seems like they have so much more talent than they actually do. But it's so weird to see how the injuries are plaguing this team. It seems like you have Waddle, Hill, and Tua, and they can never all be healthy at the same time, which is kind of a sad shame because this is another team that has a lot of talent. Last year, the running back room was Achan, who was highly explosive, one of my favorite running backs to watch. Mostert, who had one of those what's that guy in the Lions name? The RB2.
David Montgomery.
He had one of those Montgomery types of seasons where you support your guy, where you get the goal line work. I think they also had Jalen Wright. Just so much talent there for the Dolphins. But between the Patriots and the Jets, I do like a lot of the talent that the Jets have, but I would give the edge to the Patriots. I think we're going to see what's potentially a top 2 to 4 rookie season from Trey Henderson. I think that a lot of things are going to go right for the Patriots. Maybe not enough to squeeze them out the top of the division, but enough to at least see some potential and be more optimistic moving forward. The Jets, on the other hand, I would rank them at the bottom of the division. I think that it's just a story of over expectations and under deliveries. You have who was a really, really good running back in Brees Hall, somebody that could take it 80 yards to the house at any time, who there's talks that he may be not losing a spot, but losing a big majority of his snap count to Braylon Allen. You have a guy in Garrett Wilson who has the same Terry McLaurin type of rendition. You see this guy, he's so talented. He makes the greatest catches, but you're never going to see him go for 1,600 yards. You're never going to see him getting that goal line work and being properly fed. I think that's going to hold the Jets back. I think they're going to come in last.
Yeah, I'm in the same order. So you got Bills, then the Dolphins, then the Patriots, then the Jets. I really think the Dolphins are going to be a sneaky good team. You'll hear my full opinion later on this pod, but let's move on to the next segment. So this segment is called Quick Picks, where we each choose the week 1 matchups in under a minute total. So we each have 30 seconds to say who are winning, who's winning each game, why they're winning, and we'll go over all the week 1 matchups on this. So welcome to the Quick Picks segment. We'll start with Thursday's opening game, Cowboys at Eagles. Who you got?
I'm going to go Eagles. I think that you're coming off of a Super Bowl win. You're playing the Cowboys. Not much more thought is even necessary to go into that.
I'm with you. Give me the Eagles in a blowout win. I'm talking a 21-plus point win, embarrassing the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. Friday night game in Sao Paulo, Chiefs versus the Chargers. Who you got?
I'm going Chiefs, and it's the same thing as what we discussed before in the division rankings. It's a high-powered team. It seems like every time you look at the TV, they're winning by 10 or 14 points. And I don't think the Chargers are going to put up more of a fight.
I'm excited to see Amarian Hampton here, and I think he's going to have a sneaky good debut, but give me the Chiefs by a field goal here for all the reasons you just mentioned. All right, Dolphins at Colts. Who you got?
Let's go Dolphins. We're going to see a resurgence in the reign of Devon Achane, assuming that he plays. This is one of the most exciting, explosive players. I think a guy like Tyreek Hill's his glory might be coming to an end. Even with that being said, that's not going to be enough to stop this team. I think they're going to come out, score 35 plus points, and they're going to get back to looking at that top shape that they've showed us time to time in the past. Very promising offense over there.
I'm also taking the Dolphins. I think the start of Daniel Jones as a Colt is rusty. It comes off horrible. Give me the Dolphins by a touchdown here. All right, very interesting game here. Steelers at the Jets. Aaron Rodgers returning to New York, where a horrendous 2 years happened with an injury and a rough season. Head coach and GM fired. Steelers at the Jets. Who you got?
Let's go Steelers. This is a team that they'll always seem to win those low scoring defensive battle games, and I can't expect anything different than a low scoring defensive battled game from these two teams. I think the Steelers defense shines. I think they probably win the ground game as well. I think it's going to be a close, low scoring game, slight edge to the Steelers.
I don't know which one to pick here. I've thought over it, but one team stands out to me, and that is the Steelers in this matchup. As much as Aaron Glenn wants the Jets and they want to win this quote unquote revenge game, if you could even call it that, I do not think that the talent is going to match there with the Jets to the Steelers. And I also think that Justin Fields playing against his former coach, they know all of his weaknesses. Give me the Steelers winning 17-13, like you said, in a low scoring game. Next matchup is the Panthers at the Jaguars. Two teams that seem to be on the rise and young. Who you got?
I'm going to give the edge to the Jaguars because, as we know, the Panthers just lost Thielen. He's coming back to Minnesota where he belongs. That's going to be important. You still have Bryce Young, who I'm not even sure if he's for sure starting or not. But these are just teams who, as good as they can be, you don't expect them to come out hot. With that being said, the Jaguars have more talent, more of their potential is proven. I think they get the edge here, and I'll even throw out a number. Let's go 28-21 Jags.
I'm actually going to veer different of you this one. Give me the Panthers. Give me Dave Canales and Bryce Young to go into Jacksonville and spoil Travis Hunter's debut. Give me the Panthers to win a close one, 20-17, in a very close game in which Bryce Young shows that he can do just enough for them to win this game. All right, let's bring it over to quite possibly one of the worst teams in the league at home. The Cardinals are going to New Orleans to face the Saints. Who you got?
Let's go Cardinals. Why not? I think that it's been a relief to see James Conner in the backfield lately, a guy who started off his career so well, and he'll be backed up by, what would it be, Benson? I think that's a pretty underrated running back room there. You got to remember that Kyler Murray, it's a Lamar Jackson, highly mobile type of quarterback. This is a guy who you should expect a couple games for him to just absolutely go off. He has Marvin Harrison Jr., who's coming off of a really disappointing season his rookie year. But in my opinion, you cannot write MHJ off. He's still a generational talent. I think he's still going to go in and make plays. Give me the Cardinals.
I'm going to take the Cardinals over the Saints 23-13. I think Spencer Rattler and this offense, Kellen Moore might scheme up some good things in the first half and they might score a touchdown or a field goal. But I think as the game goes on, that offense is going to crumble. Give me Marvin Harrison Jr., like you said, to have a great second year. And I think it starts off with a buzz. Give me the Cardinals by 10 in the Bayou. Bringing it over to a divisional matchup in the NFC East. The New York Giants head to DC to face the Commanders. Who you got?
Give me the edge to the Commanders. While the Giants do have a lot of good young talent, the acquisition of Dart, Neighbors coming off of a great rookie year, Tyrone Tracy, who's a guy that I think needs to be talked about more. He'll take a big leap up. But you got to remember the Commanders is a team that we're putting easily at the top one, if not two, of their division. They're more proven, they're more consistent. Give me the Commanders by 10.
I'm with you, but not by 10. I'm taking the Commanders by a field goal. I think Russell Wilson has a strong debut. Malik Neighbors looks amazing. And like you mentioned, Tyrone Tracy, maybe the most underrated player in the NFL, is spectacular and needs more credit. But I'm still taking the Commanders here and Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels. Give me the Commanders by a field goal at home. Next matchup, another divisional matchup, this time down in the NFC South. The Buccaneers head to Atlanta to face the Falcons and Michael Penix. Who you got?
If you ask me, this game is going to be a lot harder to predict than it seems like. You have the absolutely loaded Buccaneers wide receiver room, the Falcons, who I think are going to make a big rise with the season that Drake London and Bijan Robinson had. I think Penix is the right start. I think that he should have came in and started for this team a while ago. While I could see this game oddly being the matchup of the week, going in excess of 27 points per team. Let me go Buccaneers by a field goal. I think they'll be more consistent throughout the game. I think they'll get it done.
I know I chose the Buccaneers earlier in this podcast to win this division narrowly, but give me the Falcons and the Dirty Birds to take down the Bucs week 1. Michael Penix is going to have a great game. Bijan Robinson is going to go crazy. And give me the home team in Atlanta, the Dirty Bird Atlanta Falcons, to win this game by a touchdown. Another matchup. This matchup, the Battle of Ohio. The Bengals heading to Cleveland to face the Browns. Who you got?
I got to go Bengals. It's pretty easy for me. The Browns is a team that it's something you want to be excited for as an outsider, but they just keep having disappointing seasons. Things aren't going their way. On the contrary, the Bengals, who I personally might be higher on than a lot of other people, just for personal reasons, for some of my own biases, I think they take this one. I think that the Bengals win if it's low scoring, the Bengals win if it's high scoring. It's going to be at least a touchdown margin of victory, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this team absolutely go off against Browns.
In the upset of the week, I'm taking the Browns to beat the Bengals week 1. I think with all this offseason noise and how the Bengals started off last year losing against the Patriots, they look a little rusty, and the Browns and Joe Flacco take down the Bengals week 1.
You know, if you're calling it the upset of the week, then I get it. It's bold because we don't need to be cookie cutter over here. And if it was any other team, I'd say I want to see it. But that take has got to be all you. I cannot flip.
All right, we're getting into the last 10 a.m. matchup. The first 1 p.m. if you're on Eastern time, 12 Central for you. But the last one of the early slate, you got the new look. I guess that's a bad way to start it, but you got the Las Vegas Raiders heading to Foxborough to face the New England Patriots. Who do you got?
It's hard to say who you even want to see play better because you have potentially somebody that was robbed of the Heisman, depends who you are, in Ashton Genty. You have a guy that everybody wants to see succeed in Trey Henderson. I think just for the reason that you're going to say Patriots, and I've always liked Geno Smith, that I'm going to give the edge to the Raiders. I would want nothing more than to see Genty go for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. I think that actually has a better chance of happening than a lot of people realize because this guy's a true generational talent, regardless if he played for Boise State and what was it, the Mountain West or not. I think the Raiders get this one. Who knows if it's going to be close? Who knows if they're going to score a lot? I want them to win, and I'm going with it.
Although Ashton Genty is going to have over 150 all-purpose yards and score 2 touchdowns, the Patriots win this game. I'm taking Mike Vrabel at home with a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive pieces to take down the Raiders in Foxborough, spoiling Pete Carroll's and Geno Smith's and Ashton Genty's first starts on the Raiders. I think that team is going to take a little bit long to get going, but the Patriots' run defense is bad, so I'm still expecting Genty to start off the year strong and please a lot of fantasy owners with that. Let's take it out west. Another divisional matchup, this time in the NFC West. The 49ers head to Seattle to face the Seahawks with the new Cooper Cup accusation. Not Aki, fuck it. With the new Cooper Cup
acquisition.
I need to re-say that. That was the 49ers head out to Jesus Christ. I can't talk right now, but an NFC West battle. The 49ers head to Seattle to face the new look Seahawks. Who you got?
You know, based on the accusations made about Cooper Kupp, I'm going to need to go the 49ers. Not much thought necessarily goes into it. The Seahawks, while they could come out and surprise a lot of people, it just seems less likely. If I had to put down $100, one or the other, the 49ers look better, the 49ers feel better. I wouldn't be heartbroken if I was wrong here because it would definitely be cool to see JSN and some of the newer up-and-coming players pull it off, but I'm going Niners.
I'm also going to take the Niners. I think the Seahawks and Sam Darnold are going to be fraudulent this year. Give me the 49ers to start off the year strong, winning by at least 10 points in this game. Heading out to Denver, we have Cam Ward and the Titans debuting against the Broncos in Denver. Who you like here?
Well, as much as me and you and everybody else that I've talked to wants to see Cam Ward thrive, he might come out and have a great game. But let's talk about the Broncos. Bo Nix last year surprises a bunch of people. This guy seemed to be one of the more hated on rookie quarterbacks. I never could understand why, being the success that he had at Oregon. You have some young receivers in Marvin Mims. You have an established receiver in Cortland Sutton. Who I think is going to surprise a lot of people is RJ Harvey because of the receiving upside that he has this team. Probably one of the biggest potentials for breakout tight end of the year in Evan Engram. The Broncos have a higher likelihood of things going right. The Titans, like you said, missing pieces. You got nonchalant Cam Ward slinging the ball 60 yards over there. You want to see him do good. He could have a good game, but I don't think it's going to be enough either way. I think the Broncos come out, win this game by 10 plus points. And I think that we see the new era of Bo Nix and the Broncos.
As much as I love Cam Ward, the rest of the Titans roster is horrible. And this is week 1 where they're going to be at their lowest. Give me the Broncos here and an easy pick for me. Next game, I think this might be the game of the week. The Lions head to Green Bay to face the Packers and the newly acquired Micah Parsons. Lions at Packers. Who you got?
It's hard to pretend like the Packers don't have good players. Everybody seems like they're giving up on Jordan Love. I still like him. They brought in Golden. They just brought in Parsons. Regardless of how much Parson costed, I think that defense, in some way or another, goes to a top 5 defense overnight. The same way that we thought the same way that we saw the Bears transform their defense with the acquisition of Khalil Mack a couple years past. But the only thing you can really take about the Lions is the loss of their offensive coordinator. Will this kill that talented of an offense with Gibbs, with Montgomery, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, a quarterback who always seems to put up 200, 300 yards and a couple touchdowns in Jared Goff? I want the Lions to score 45 points. I'd be happy if they put up 25, 28 and got this win and breeze past the Packers. I'm going to go Lions either way, and I'll be disappointed if anything else.
I think there's been a lot of offseason noise about this team. I think that the players, especially the veteran players, are sick of it. Give me the Lions to beat the Packers in Green Bay 27-21. I think Goff, Amon-Ra, you can see all the hype on social media about, oh, the Lions lost both coordinators are going to be horrible. I think they use that motivation, and I think they prove to the rest of the NFL that they're not going anywhere despite losing their coordinators, and they make a statement win week 1 against the Packers. Heading into another really good matchup. I think there's a lot of great matchups this week. I think this is another great one that is really intriguing to see how these teams stand health-wise. The Texans head to LA and SoFi Stadium to face the Rams. Texans at Rams. Who you got?
Let me go Rams. I think that the Rams, just out of me wanting to see a guy like Puka Nacua come out and have a great game, I think just wanting to see Kyron Williams and Blake Corum go out and do their thing. For some reason, this is more of a gut feeling. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I just feel like I'm going to be flipping on the TV, flipping through red zone, and I think the Rams are going to squeeze this one out one way or another. I can't say I'm necessarily against the idea of the Texans winning, but something just feels right. I'm going on a whim. I'm taking the Rams.
I'm taking the Rams in what might be a disaster of a game here. I think both defensive lines heavily outweigh each other's offensive lines, and I think the Rams win in a 13-10 rushing-based win, and they barely sneak out a win against two teams that can't manage a very good offense as the offensive line collapses around them. Give me the Rams in a defensive battle here. Heading out to Sunday Night Football, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens facing Josh Allen and the Bills, the MVP candidates last year. Some might say Lamar was robbed, but regardless, Ravens at Bills, Sunday Night Football. Who you got?
I think this game is scheduled at prime time for a reason. I think everybody's going to be shocked if it's not the game of the week. We could easily see both of these quarterbacks trading touchdowns head for head. But then again, we could easily see 2 to 3 interceptions thrown. You have a great pass defense in the Bills, which is gonna be able to shake things up. But does that even necessarily matter when you have the rushing upside of Lamar Jackson and who still seems to be at the top of the league? Give me the Bills just because. Give me, you know what? Honestly, let's stop beating around the bush. Give me the Bills just because Josh Allen's going to go for another MVP caliber season, and that's all there is to it.
It's the Bills last year at Highmark Stadium as we know it before they go into a new stadium next year. You got the reigning MVP, Josh Allen. You got James Cook, who just signed a contract extension. You're bringing in Joey Bosa on the defensive line. None of that matters. The Ravens are winning this game by a touchdown. Lamar Jackson starts week 1 strong on the. Actually, I can't even discuss that, but the Ravens win this game in Buffalo and they get the revenge for last year's AFC divisional game. Give me Lamar. Last game of the week. Your Vikings head out to Chicago to face the new look Ben Johnson led Browns and Caleb Williams on year 1 in the Ben Johnson offense. Vikings at Bears, Monday Night Football. Who's winning this game?
We all know what's coming here. I'd be crazy not to say the Vikings. There's one situation only that would involve the Vikings not winning, and that's JJ McCarthy having one of the worst quarterback debuts that you could possibly imagine. Is that likely? No, it's extremely unlikely. It's almost not even worth mentioning, but the Vikings are going to take this game. They'll win it offensively, they'll win it defensively, all around the board. It's going to be going our way. Home, away, doesn't matter. Rivalry game against the ever revolving failure of the Bears. The Vikings take this. Don't be shocked.
JJ McCarthy is going to have a weak debut with 2 turnovers and under 200 yards passing. But despite all this, the Vikings are going to beat the Bears, and Ben Johnson is going to hang his head in disbelief as they walk out. Give me the Vikings to win this game. That's all for the quick pick segment of this podcast. Let's move on to something that's juicy. MVP predictions for 2025. Jack, we'll start with you. Who is winning the MVP this year?
Well, if you've been paying close attention to this podcast, you can probably narrow it down to a couple people. I'll put my picks out there. You have Josh Allen and you have Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is the guy that I won't walk away from. I won't give up. I think that last year, a lot of the downfalls and drawbacks of his season just coming out hampered. It seemed like he was always dealing with a lingering injury, but this is a guy who I watch and I can't ever fully doubt him. I can't be watching a Bengals game, seeing the Bengals down 7 with 2 minutes to go and think that there's not always going to be a chance that he drives down the field and gets it done. I think that there's too many things that are going right. The Bengals receivers are going to stay healthy this year. They're going to give Burrow all the opportunities he needs. The wins are going to happen. And on the contrary, it's easy to go Josh Allen. I think that there's a legitimate possibility of Josh Allen balling out and just losing the MVP on a political in a political reason, being that to go back to back after what was a lot of people considered him robbing Lamar Jackson. It's just the reason that I even give the edge to Burrow in the first place. I'm gonna go number 1 pick Burrow, number 2 pick Josh Allen. I'd be happy as a clam either way. I want to see what you have to say about this.
I think those are 2 really good candidates, and I think obviously any given year, those guys just have so much talent that you can't not include them in the conversation. But I think by the end of the year, this is going to be a 2-horse race for the MVP between Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Here's why. Mahomes is going to have a better offense this year, having an extra year to develop with Xavier Worthy, getting Rashee Rice back after the 6-game suspension, having Travis Kelce be more focused on football this year, and having Hollywood Brown coming back fully healthy. I think with those weapons, with Andy Reid and another year of Mahomes, give me Mahomes to be in a 2-horse race for the MVP. On the other side of this, Lamar Jackson. This guy statistically was better than Josh Allen last year, but maybe you could call it political reasons. I think it's more about impact on your team and voter fatigue. Josh Allen won this. I understand Josh Allen not having as much weapons, and I'm not too pressed about him winning MVP for that reason. But Lamar Jackson had already won 2 MVPs, should have won a third one last year. And we're talking about him being in his prime, year 3 of Todd Monken's offense. Give me Lamar Jackson to win the MVP with Mahomes not far behind him this year. I like Lamar Jackson. And also, here's another additional reason for this. Winning in your team's record is very much important to this. You can understand, even in college, this is the reason. Winning the MVP, or in college, it's the Heisman, but winning the MVP is also about your team's record. As unfairly as that might be, I think that is what will limit players like Joe Burrow. If you look at the Ravens, last year they were already great, and I think their offense is going to be just as good as it was, probably better than last year. But their defense was also very good before, and now they bring in a Malachi Starks. They bring in a Mike Green, who slid to the second round over some SA allegations. Probably can't say it on here. I think their offense is going to be great, and Lamar's going to have great statistics, but their defense is also amazing. So I think the Ravens are probably the 1 or 2 seed here, along with the Chiefs. You could put that in any order, and I think that the Ravens' record being great and being at the top of the AFC, on top of Lamar Jackson's statistical things, on top of Lamar Jackson's statistical analytics here, give me Lamar Jackson to win the MVP, but again, wouldn't be surprised if Patrick Mahomes also won it for those reasons.
I think a lot of people are forgetting that Mahomes kind of lost all his weapons last year, and they went down early too. I think that, I always am high on Mahomes just for reasons that you don't even want to be honest with. Like, you don't want to give this dude his flowers sometimes because of how obnoxious the fan base can be. But for the Chiefs to start out this season good and then have a guy like Rashee Rice, who you could make a case has top 3 receiver in the league potential, coming back for the second and third portion of the season, I think it's going to be a big deal. I actually like your takes despite not having either of those guys on my radar.
I mean, people forget that just 2 years ago, Patrick Mahomes was the MVP. The following year, he lost, some of the weapons due to injuries, and they still went and won a Super Bowl. And he was winning a Super Bowl with, I think maybe not MVS. Was he on that roster? I'm not sure, but I think it was Mecole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster after both of those guys were cut by their team.
Touchdowns.
Yeah, so 2 guys that got cut from other teams, and he won the Super Bowl with that team. He transitioned to being a more efficient quarterback rather than a statistical 5,000-yard passer. And then this past year, just being decimated with injuries and Travis Kelce looking a little lost out there. So I think people forget that Mahomes has that capability, and I think returning all those weapons and having Andy Reid still being there, that Mahomes is going to be an MVP candidate. I think regardless of whether people like it or not, there is some political bias in there on top of him being a great football player. So I think people just forget how good Mahomes is just because of how it looked last year in the last 2 years. But that's just being a good quarterback, adjusting, giving what the defense takes you with the 2 high safeties, not having those bombs to Tyreek Hill anymore. So I think the casual fan overlooks that, and they kind of missed that. But let's go to the other side of the ball. We'll keep this brief. Defensive player of the year. Who do you have winning your defensive player of the year?
This might seem like a pick from left field, but let's go Pat Surtain. I think the Broncos just overall step it up this year. you got to realize that this is a team who can very easily make a push for the Super Bowl. I think that having a guy like Surtain, who always seems to be one of the better, one of the better reliable quarterbacks, a guy that'll just go out there and be consistent and be reliable. I think he comes out of nowhere and does it.
Uh, just to clarify, did Pat Surtain win Defensive Player of the Year last year? I
I
think
can't even
yeah, he did.
remember.
He did win it. So you got Pat Surtain winning back to back. You know, my pick for Defensive Player of the Year this year is Pat Surtain winning back to back Defensive Players of the Year.
Come
And
on.
here is why.
Unscripted. Come on.
They have a great defense already, as they did last year, and now they're adding Jahdae Barron, first-round pick out of Texas, on the other side of him. This is only going to make Pat Surtain better. And, man, there is something in the air up there in Mile High Stadium. The Broncos' defense is so good, and you cannot name anyone outside of Pat Surtain on that team. They're not a big-name team, but they are an efficient team. They know how to play. Their scheme is great, and it helps Pat Surtain now in getting an elite cornerback that I think Jahdae Barron is going to be on the other side. Give me Pat Surtain to win back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year.
Let's go.
All right, this is a more fun one here, and I think I already know who your pick here is going to be, but Rookie of the Year. Who do you predict to win Rookie of the Year?
Well, now that I've been watching more college football, probably the coolest, the most fun player to watch in college at the quarterback position. Give me Cam Ward. You got to realize when a rookie comes into the NFL, situation is king. Some of these rookies don't even get a chance to start until 5, 6, 7 games in, unfortunately, especially quarterbacks who you can easily see a great quarterback prospect sit behind the starter on the tail end of the starter's career. Cam Ward, he doesn't have the best weapons. He has the most potential to turn this team around. This is a pick that, if gone right, makes the whole front office look like geniuses. This is a guy who is known for staying calm and staying composed and escaping pressure and making something out of nothing. I think that he's a perfect fit for the team. Don't expect the Titans to come out and be at the top of their division, but expect Cam Ward to be beloved amongst the fan base. Expect him to have big games and big moments, and maybe even expect him to come back from trailing in the fourth quarter a couple times this year.
As much as Rookie of the Year seems to be a quarterback themed, just like the MVP, I'll say this again. As much as the Rookie of the Year seems to be a quarterback only position to win this award, give me Ashton Genty to win Rookie of the Year. Here's why. I love Cam Ward, but the team around him is horrible. Their offensive line is one of the worst, if not the worst, in the league. We've seen J.C. Latham, who they drafted in the first round a few years ago, has not seemed to pan out. Their wide receiver core, Tyler Lockett might be their best receiver. I'm not sure how Calvin Ridley. I think he's their maybe only reliable weapon is Calvin Ridley, but who knows with the injuries there. I think Cam Ward has a very eerily similar season to what Drake May had as a rookie. As much talent and scramble ability there is there, and ability to extend plays, the team around him is so bad, and it's going to limit his playmaking. So there's a lot of potential, but he's a year out from doing anything. So give me Ashton Genty to win Rookie of the Year. JC, what are your thoughts on that?
See, the fact of the matter is that if you have a guy like Genty win Rookie of the Year going against the narrative of being a quarterback type of thing, I'm gonna be just as happy as you are. It it's crazy to see how he comes out, and Genty's been probably the best running back prospect since maybe would it be Barry Sanders on a I think so on a numbers basis. Everybody's gonna try and discredit him because he played for Boise State. You got to realize Boise State went to the playoffs. So, as bad as you're going to say if that team is, and as little of competition, this guy at the running back position is turning this team into a bunch of winners. Me and you actually have the same idea about Ward and the Titans, but you're more pessimistic on it and I'm more optimistic about it. I could see it going either way. It's gonna be rough, it's gonna be shaky, but it only takes Ward turning one receiver into a stud, maybe a resurging Calvin Ridley, who I think has so much more to show the league than we've seen. Maybe who turns up as a guy that can take the ball 25 yards when under pressure, avoiding a sack. We'll see. Only time can tell.
Yeah, I think the main thing for me is I just don't I am very pessimistic about Cam Ward. But here's the thing with Rookie of the Year. We all understand that these awards heavily favor quarterbacks, and a lot of the time it's a quarterback only award. But Cam Ward is the only rookie quarterback that even has a chance for this. Shadur Sanders isn't starting. Jackson Dart isn't starting. Tyler Shuck isn't starting. I think Jackson Dart will start at some point just because of the fan base. It's kind of be like Drake May. He might start like week 6 or something like that, kind of rushed ahead, but that's not enough time for that. And I think Cam Ward is the only quarterback that even has a chance here. But just because of how bad the weapons are around him, how weak they are at running back, how weak their offensive line is, I think it's going to be a rough rookie year. Not his fault at all. I think he has all the talent in the world. But you look at Drake May last year, he wasn't even close. I know there was a lot of good, but even if you take Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix out of that, Drake May is still not winning Rookie of the Year. So I think Ashton Genty is going to be special. I think he's going to rush for over 1,200 yards. I think he'll have over 15 touchdowns, and I think he easily wins this award. Maybe has it wrapped up by Thanksgiving.
All right, agree to disagree. Same reasons, different outcomes. That's just how it goes around here.
Okay. Speaking of overrated, we'll get into the next segment. Most overrated team this season. I think this could be of any of the 32 teams. JC, who is the most overrated team in the NFL this season?
Well, when you think about it, when you think about how I stand and being a Vikings fan, you got to say the Bears. This seems like a team that just keeps failing no matter what. You got Caleb Williams painting his nails. You got you got DJ Moore, who just seems like he's so close to breaking out every year but can't stay consistent. You got Swift, who is a guy that I've wanted to be so good for so long, but you can't be surprised when the Bears come out. They have all this potential. Everybody's talking about them making the right deals, drafting the right guys, and it's just never going to go their way. This is a team who can put up 35 points in one week and then lose a game at home to a bottom of the league team the next. You're never going to be surprised when you flip on the TV and the Bears are down 21. You're never going to be surprised when Caleb Williams paints his nails and throws 3 picks in a game. And this team is just going to keep getting everything that they need and under delivering.
I'm also going to take the Bears here. Listen, it's always the Bears' year. They're always the most improved team, but Bears fans need to face reality here. You have a first-year head coach. You have a second-year quarterback who it's his first year in a different system. You have a running back that looks like his injuries are always getting the better of him with DeAndre Swift. You have a rookie wide receiver, Luther Burden. You have a second-year wide receiver, Roma Dunze. And DJ Moore is your only valid weapon that is an experienced weapon. I really like Roschon Johnson here. I think the Bears defense is just middle of the pack, but their division is also just so good. I know Jordan Love can kind of get hated on, but the Packers are still a really good team with a really good coach. The Lions still have a absolutely loaded roster, and we'll see how the rookies do this year. They always seem to draft really good, slept-on prospects. And then you have the Vikings, who have a monster defense with Brian Flores controlling it and a wizardry job of offensive on that side. So the Bears, I think, are the most overrated team in the league. And I think that at the end of the season, it's going to be just another Bears fans disappointed, Bears fans calling for Ben Johnson's job, Bears fans calling Caleb Williams some, homophobic slurs. They are not going to be treating this team well as they walk out of their horrible Soldier Field stadium with the lowest capacity in the league. So glad we're in agreement there. I know you might be a little biased as a Vikings fan there, but it just seems to be year after year. I mean, you could say the same thing with the Cowboys too, but at least they could make the playoffs. So let's get into our second to last segment. Worst to first. We've seen a lot of this. I know one of the teams you picked is the 49ers. Somehow they were the last team in the division last year, but particular stat here I'd like to bring up. Since 2002, there have been 25 teams that have gone from worst in their division to first in their division. The most recent example being the Texans 2 seasons ago, going from 3-13 and 1 to 10-7 and winning the division. So there were not any teams last year to do this. As you add a 17th game and there's more parity in the league. What is one team that was last in their division last year that you think is going to go to first? I know you mentioned the 49ers, but if it's just the 49ers or another team, would love to hear who you think is going to go from worst to first this year.
I mean, this is the thing, and I'd be very shocked if we didn't come out and say the same team, but let's talk about the Patriots. It looks like I had to double check. They were just one game behind the Jets, sitting at 4-13. But I think everybody was excited about Drake May. Yes, he started late, unfortunately. Like we both know, and you know it better than I do. The Patriots, they went out and they made a lot of great acquisitions. This team is competing with the Bills a lot more so than the Dolphins. The Patriots, in order to go to first in the division, it's going to command 11 to 12 wins. But you got to realize Drake May had so much growth and showed so much potential. They got Trey Henderson, who's nobody's going to be surprised where he goes for 1,000 yards on the ground. They have the right pieces coming in. The fan base is staying positive. The sentiment is high. Let me go Patriots worst to first. What do you think?
As much as it hurts me to say as a Patriots fan, I still think they're a year out. On the left side of their offensive line, you have a rookie left tackle, and they've been experimenting with a rookie at left guard as well. So on Drake May's blind side there, I do love Travion Henderson, and I do think he's going to be special, him being the third down back. I think he's going to be very intriguing, especially in the fantasy football world. I think he'll do a great year there. I do think Stephon Diggs is going to be spectacular this year. I think a lot of people are questionable about his injury, but he is going to be very special there. And Pop Douglas is going to thrive in that new offense. But I still think that this team is 1 year away from really competing for the division. I know I did take the Rams for my NFC West division, but I think of all the teams that are worst in their division, for the people listening, on the NFC side, it was the New York Giants, the 49ers, the Bears, and the Saints. And on the AFC side, it was the Patriots, Raiders, Browns, and Titans. I think on the AFC side, Patriots do have the most potential. You could maybe say the Raiders there. But on the NFC side, I mean, Giants, Bears, Saints, definitely not happening. So I think the 49ers are clearly, if there were to be one team to go from worst to first, the 49ers are by far taking this and going from worst to first. But just like last year, I really do not think there are going to be any teams this year that go from worst to first. Unfortunately, adding a 17th game, having all more parity than ever in the league, I do not think that worst to first is as achievable as it was, say, just a few years ago. So no one for me is going to go from worst to first. But if I had to pick a team on the AFC side, I would say the Patriots, but I think that they would need Drake May to have 40 plus total touchdowns and really just take a massive leap there. I think he's going to take a leap, not that big of a leap yet. But on the NFC side, the 49ers, I mean, they have the most potential, great coaching, great offense, great defense. So give me them there. I want to get into playoff talk. This is not something that, we had planned for this, but on the NFC side, you mentioned you think that the Eagles, 49ers, Vikings, and Bucks are going to be the division winners on this side. But I'd love to hear for your 3 wildcard teams on the NFC side. Who do you like taking those final 3 wildcard spots outside of the Eagles, 49ers, Vikings, and Bucks?
Let me pull up a quick list so that I know I'm not missing anybody.
Oh, go ahead.
All right, so obviously going to put the Lions in there because you got to realize this is a high-powered team. It seems like they're always on the brink of making a push for a Super Bowl. You're going to need a lot of things to go right for the Lions, but they have the potential. They have the right guys. You cannot be surprised to see the Lions. In all honesty, you can't be surprised to see the Lions at the top of the division, let alone a wild card. Next, we'll go Falcons. Honestly, they had what was a slightly underwhelming season last year, but this is a team who was in a lot of close games and things easily could have gone either way. I really do believe that Penix starting the year is going to be important to this team. I think guys like Drake London that took a big step up for themselves are going to have more synergy with the team and allow for things to go more smoother the whole season. Let's go at the 3 spot of the wild card. Why not Commanders? I think Commanders just seems right because yet again, it's a team that you don't feel crazy about going out and saying, "Hey, I wouldn't be surprised to see them playing in the Super Bowl," because that's just how it is. There's a lot of guys that are proven. There's also a lot of guys with potential. Their defense is good enough. Their offense is electric. Let me go Lions, Commanders, Falcons. What do you say about that?
So in total, you have 2 new playoff teams, the 49ers and the Falcons, who weren't there last year. My first pick, I'm going to go back to your last one. The Commanders, I think they could win the division this year, and I think they just have so much talent and stable quarterback play that I can't not take the Commanders here. And like you said too, I think this is a team that is new to the playoffs. My one new team to the playoffs on the NFC side. I do like the Falcons and Michael Penix. They also had 2 first-round picks, James Pierce on the edge and Jalen Walker at that outside linebacker position. And I think that's going to be huge for their defense, who's already strong, and having Coach Morris on the defensive side, being a defensive-minded coach. I really trust Michael Penix on the offensive side and Bijan. So give me the Falcons to make the playoffs, if not win the division. But I like them in a wild card as I take the Bucks over them. And then for my final spot, I'm also going to take a team from the NFC North, but it's not going to be the Lions. I'm taking the Packers to make the playoffs. I know leaving the Lions off this list is kind of crazy, but losing both coordinators, I think they'll be, maybe 9-8, 10-7, and still miss the playoffs here. I like the Packers, especially after this Micah Parsons trade. I think their division's really tough, and that's where a majority of their losses are going to come from. But I think people are over-hating on Jordan Love and not trusting in Matt LaFleur and Josh Jacobs having a stellar year last year. I think people that maybe don't play fantasy kind of missed how statistically good that Josh Jacobs was. And I really think Jordan Love takes a step forward. So give me the Packers, Falcons, and Commanders to be my wild card teams on this side. Let's bring it over to the AFC. You got the Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, and Texans as your division winners. Would love to hear who your 3 wild card teams are, because I feel like the AFC is a lot more wide open with how much talent there is, especially quarterback wise.
All right, well, let's start off. Let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Ravens and the Dolphins. Ravens more so. You're not going to be surprised if they win the division. They have all the potential in the world. It's a team that you can't help but think every year that they're going to go deep in the playoffs, let alone get a wild card spot, worst case scenario. I think that's pretty straightforward. The Dolphins seem like they always have a bad stretch of luck late in the season. So let's just call them due. I don't think it necessarily matters how things go. I think that there can be a lot of rocky patches, but the Dolphins, just for all the missed opportunities in the past, are going to end up coming through, securing a wild card spot, worst case scenario, and I think that's going to be deserving. Why not, if we had to throw one more team out there? You know what? Let's honestly just throw something out of right field because we don't got to be a cookie cutter show here. Let's go Las Vegas Raiders.
Wow.
Let's see Geno Smith come in and shock a bunch of people. Let's see Ashton Genty put up a better rookie season than Bijan Robinson, a better rookie season than Gibbs, a better running back season than Saquon had last year. Who cares? Let's see the Raiders just shock the world. Why not?
Wow, that is one bold take. Even just putting the Raiders at second division, I think is a bold take. I think I had them, I mentioned earlier, at 7-10. I still think that they're going to be a good team. It's just, I think their division is just cannibalization. It's just such an immensely loaded division. But for my three wildcard teams, I'll start with the one that was similar to yours. Give me the Miami Dolphins to make the wild card this year. I really like what the Dolphins have done on offense. I know last year was a bit of a rough stretch for them, but I expect them to bounce back. They got their second year with Anthony Weaver at the defensive helm, and I really think that this is going to be a Tyreek Hill break back season, if you want to call it that. You can call it breakout or whatever, but I think he's going to come back and he's going to be really good this year. I think Tua is going to be even better, and Jalen Waddle, I think, might be one of the best wide receivers in the league by the end of this year. The Penguin Waddle is back. And then can't even forget Devon Achane. I mean, Achane fever is up. I like the Dolphins this year, and I expect them to maybe be 10-7 and make the wild card. My second team is how can you leave this out, JC? Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers.
I was
Year
thinking about.
two, Hampton in, Omari and Hampton. I love the Chargers. I really wanted to take them over the Chiefs in the divisional, but I trust in what the Chiefs have built. And until they lose the division, the Chiefs will always win it in my eyes. So give me Justin Herbert, Madison Beer's boyfriend, for them to be in the wild card. I love the Chargers in the wild card spot. And then for my final team, why don't we take the oldest team in the league here? Give me Grandpa Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers to make the playoffs. I understand you got an old Jalen Ramsey. You got an old Aaron Rodgers. I know they're running backs. They're relying, I think, on Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, who is going to be a stud in my eyes. And then you have Jalen Warren still there. So give me the Steelers to sneak into the playoffs. They might be a 9-8. They might be 10-7, around there. But give me Aaron Rodgers and the UNC status Steelers to make the playoffs. What are your thoughts on the Steelers making the playoffs, JC?
Between the Steelers and the Chargers, and if we're being honest here, these are probably one of the teams that I should have thrown in, but this isn't cookie cutter. This isn't look up the best odds and take it to make yourself sound accurate. You know, the the Steelers are, I didn't even realize this until you said it, but they are the oldest team in the league. It'll be interesting to see how the running backs go back there. I feel like everybody forgets about Jalen Warren. It sounds like he just got paid. And obviously the guy that we all want to see do better, Caleb Johnson, probably ended third running back in the country out of Iowa, which was very interesting to see from such a defensive team like that. I like it. I think that maybe Aaron Rodgers has a couple more flashes of greatness on his descent. I think that maybe we see the resurgence of a couple guys over there in Pittsburgh. It's a good take. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been saying the Patriots are a wild card team. The Patriots are going to go to the playoffs. The Patriots are, going to win this amount of games. But listen, the Patriots aren't there yet. I'm expecting them to be around 8-9 this year, which still would be a great year because They really were a team that was 3-13. I know they finished at 4-13, but the Bills played all their backups and purposely lost a game. You've never seen a more rigged job. The Patriots even threw their backups out there, and they still won with Joe Milton out there. So the Patriots were the worst team in the league until the Bills were purposely losing to make sure the Patriots didn't get the number 1 overall pick last year. But we'll get into the last topic of the podcast. I think this is more of a fun topic, but we're going to be discussing the worst fan bases in the NFL. We'll start with who you think. We'll maybe get into the top 3, but JC, would love to hear who do you think is the, or I guess, is this, I'm judging like it's a person, this some, but who do you think has the worst fan base in the NFL?
I think this is a team that's almost iconic for having a bad fan base. Let's go the Browns, right? You think about, this must have been 6 years ago when they had Odell, right?
Yeah.
This was like Odell, Jarvis Landry, Deshaun Watson, Deshaun massage getting Watson way back in the day. Way back in the day. And I remember shortly after this, there was so much hype. I saw a kid just hanging around at a hotel wearing a Brown shirt, and I was like telling him, I'm like, dude, you guys are gonna have the best team ever, whatever. It seemed like just a couple months later, I'm going on YouTube, seeing all these NFL videos with Browns fans with paper bags on their head. It seems like, aside from this one year when they had so much hype, that you've never met a Browns fan. It seems like their logo is a brown helmet, that nobody wants to wear that. It's Browns fans aren't real. If they are real, they probably don't know that much about football. If they have liked the team for more than 10 years, they're probably embarrassed to say that they're a fan. And this isn't like shitty Eagles like spitting and throwing beer on people at their own stadium type of bad fan base. This is just knowing that you can ask a Browns fan what he thinks about Browns players. He'll probably tell you bad things. There's no optimism. There's no excitement. This is the worst fan base.
I actually really love that take. As much misery as they have been through, I love that take. I think pessimism is something that's I take a lot into account when I'm thinking of the worst fan base. In my opinion, the worst fan base in the NFL is the New York Giants fan base. I know my buddies over at Big Apple Banter are not going to like this take, but here's why. They ran Daniel Jones out of town. Any good player on the Giants has tremendous media coverage of them. And you saw with Daniel Jones, these reporters were vicious. They're always asking the coaches to try to get something horrible out of them. I think New York media has a lot to do with this, but the Giants fan base is so pessimistic or so delusional. It's neither one. Like, they can never meet in the middle in that gray area. They're so black and white. They're very pessimistic, or on Big Apple Banter cases, my buddy's podcast, they're just so delusional on the Jackson Dart's going to be a dog. Like, I think this is the worst fan base. I think the New York hate and being congested with all these people in such a small area drives these people nuts. I was going to say the Jets here, but when you think of the Jets, they've just been so bad for so long that, you can't help but feel bad for them and being pessimistic. But the Giants have won 2 Super Bowls in the last 18 years, their most recent one being 14 years ago. This team was in the playoffs just a few years ago with Daniel Jones, and they ran this guy out of town. They didn't give him a chance to develop. They want to run Brian Daboll out of town, which has really not been given a fair chance, and brought them to the playoffs from the ashes. So give me the Giants for being the worst fan base, for how delusional they are, how they treat their own players, how they treat their own GM, how they treat their own coach. Listen, they want to say we didn't offer Saquon. Joe Shane, I don't think has been a bad drafter. I think he's actually drafted pretty well. He's made a trade for Brian Burns. I mean, they are trying, but this fan base is just so pessimistic, or they're delusional and think they're going to win when they are probably the worst team in the division. So, let's bring it over to the more positive side. Who do you think has the best NFL fan base?
I don't even know if this take is going to have any merit, but I'm saying the Vikings, and I can prove it. I can be I can be relatively objective about it. I my whole life have been a Vikings fan. Not for a single day have I considered going on the bandwagon. Me and all my friends went to Kansas University with 8 people from Minnesota. We all stayed Vikings fans. We didn't care how many Super Bowls the Chiefs played in. We didn't care how many missed field goals the Vikings had. We didn't care about the 0 Super Bowls. None of that mattered. Vikings fans are loyal. I went to Germany. I had met 3 different Vikings fans. I don't even know how. And they told me that they didn't know that that's where I was from. It it goes across the country. I was just in Wisconsin. I saw more Vikings jerseys than Packers jerseys. This was literally just a couple days ago. You can say what you want. The Vikings, we got a weird reputation of choking games and of first round exiting out of the playoffs. We don't care. We will never tell you that we expect to not win the division. We'll never tell you that we're low on our rookies, and we will absolutely never ever leave this team. Not even think about it.
Listen, I love that. I really do think that they are one of the best fan bases, if not the best. And I do love that take, but I think I got to give something different. I'm going to go back to where I was born. I think the best fan base in the NFL is Detroit and the Detroit Lions. Listen, this team for 30 years, for over 33 years or something, just before recently, had not won a playoff game. They had a number 1 overall pick in Matthew Stafford, who, as soon as he leaves the next year, he wins the Super Bowl with the Rams. Listen, this stems from more of my personal experience. A few years ago, this is before Dan Campbell turned it around. This might have been when Matt Patricia was the coach, but I went to downtown Detroit and I went to a tailgate for a Lions game, and it was all these Lions fans, a lot of them being season ticket holders. And these fans, even though their team was horrible, I think this was Christmas time. So towards the end of the year, the team's already out of the playoff race. This team has no chance of winning it, and their future looks very pessimistic. These guys were still cheering for their team to win. They weren't cheering for the team to tank for a better draft pick. They were still season ticket members, even though this team had not won a playoff game in over 25 years, and they still stood by wearing their Honolulu blue. I mean, I'm so happy to see the Lions doing so well. I know it's the one team from Detroit that I didn't grow up a fan of, and maybe because of how bad they were, my family not being big Lions fans, I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm so happy to see them doing good because these fans, just like the ones in Minnesota, for how bad this team has been for so long, these fans were sticking through the mud. I think there is no such thing as a fair weather fan in Michigan. I mean, these fans are die hard, win or lose, and a lot of it was losing. So give me the Detroit Lions for having the best fan base in the NFL. I think these guys will stick through their team through thick and thin. And one thing about Detroit is, man, they might not have a ton of going. I know the city is on the rise, but the biggest celebrities in the city of Detroit are the athletes. You see at other sporting games, they're chanting Jared Goff, Jared Goff. And that is because the athletes are so beloved in Michigan. You see every Tigers fan online saying, pay Tarek Skubal. They were hyped as hell. They love Amon-Ra. They love Dan Campbell. He's the spirit of Detroit. So I think the Lions have the strongest fan base and the most loyal fan base in the NFL. I love your Minnesota pick, but I just wanted to be different. And I really think from my own experience, I've seen how diehard the Detroit fans are down there. So, yeah, that's it for our NFL preview. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, and huge thanks to JC here for featuring in this second podcast. Jack, is there any closing thoughts you have? Any plugs you want to give out? Just anything that you want to mention here?
I'm glad to be here. I think that everything that you can hear and learn from Owen is valuable. This is the type of stuff it's gonna shift your perspective and shift the way you think. If you're looking to get more knowledgeable and just understand how to talk about football and how to understand football, this is the guy that you want to hear it from. I'm just glad to be a part of this. I don't have half the knowledge that this guy has, but I think that anybody who's going to be tuning into this show is going to get an immense amount of value every single week.
Well, I really love talking with you, JC. You're free to come on the pod anytime. Love hearing from your experience, and I'm really excited to beat your ass in fantasy this year. Hopefully, we'll see. But yeah, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. Loved hearing from you, and you're welcome anytime. So thanks for tuning in, brother. Really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your night there.
I'll be back. Peace out to Fifth Quarter Nation.